This video is made with generous donations from amazing furries, just like you.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Makeup Masterclass, and welcome to a very special episode, which is a Q&A video. As I promised, if you left comments asking your questions related to the videos on the last couple of lessons, I would answer them in a Q&A video, so here we are. So let's get cracking on into it, shall we? So the first question comes from Mysticals Dragons, who asks, "Hi there, is it possible if you have any other skills in, let's say, drawing or sewing, that it would be slightly easier? I've made many things, but I am planning on making one after my birthday. Exciting, right? And I really don't know if it's just going to be easier." Yes, definitely, it would be easier. I personally don't have any sewing experience, so I'm not sewing. Thanks, Sky. I personally don't have any drawing experience. I'm not very good at getting the things in my brain onto paper very clearly. So that's a bit of a struggle for me, but I know that a lot of makers are really quite talented artists, so that does help out their making a lot. So yeah, it will be easier. If you have both, if you have sewing experience and drawing experience, you're gonna have a great time. So yes, absolutely. Next is Glory the Fox, who asks, "How long did it take you to make your first fursuit?" I'm assuming you're meaning this monstrosity over here. Yeah, the Dorito moment. I genuinely don't remember. I think it took me a week, maybe. But that was just because I was really like wanting to have it done. I didn't sew anything together. I didn't really take my time to understand the tutorial content that was being taught to me, and it was just a little bit of a nightmare, honestly. When I remade Sky in a better way with better technique, I believe she took me maybe about 2-3 weeks. I don't really remember, but I remember it taking me quite a long time because I hand sewed all the spots on her. Oh no, did I for the first one? Maybe I didn't. But either way, it definitely took me a lot longer than Dorito Moomin to do my proper suit. But your mileage may vary. Yours might take more, it might take less. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. Just take your time and just enjoy the process. If you rush yourself, you are not going to enjoy it, all right? Draco Does Stuff asks, "Where do you get your fur in Australia?" I don't get my fur in Australia. Honestly, I don't get fur from Australia anymore. I would love to, I really would, but it just doesn't exist here. Unfortunately, there's not much incentive to have local manufacturing in Australia here for fur. Just don't buy from Spotlight, for God's sake. All in craft, jeez, it's not good. I buy like 2 or 3 specific furs from Spotlight, and those are my really, really long Yeti fur, that's what they're called. But seriously, like for the prices that they charge you in Spotlight and stuff, it's the same price from ordering overseas with shipping anyway. So just order from America. Just honestly do it. Or even Linda Wholesale on AliExpress is pretty good. We like their stuff. They just don't have the wider range of colors. Or Mofu is pretty good too. I've been enjoying their stuff. Oliver 11, the Little Western asks, "So I can't be a GER J70 class steam tram, same class that Toby the Tram Engine is based off. Does it mean you can't have a fursuit of a steam locomotive?" You know, Oliver, your fursuit is whatever you dream it to be. If you wish to be a steam locomotive furry, you be a steam locomotive furry. Follow your dreams, Oliver. Follow your dreams. Become the steam locomotive you want to see in the world. I believe in you, Oliver. Send me pictures when you're done. Please, please, that'll be amazing. Okay, Auto Fluffer asks, "I have a question when making a fursuit head. Could you use a balaclava as an alternative to the bucket head method? I've seen so many videos using a balaclava, but I don't know if it's used instead of a bucket foam base. Please help." So the balaclava method is, back when I was kind of starting to explore my technique a bit more, there were main 2 methods really for foam bases. There was the balaclava method and the bucket head method. Originally, I do believe Sky's initial head base, like the yonks ago one, was a balaclava method, but then I put it onto a bucket head base for added durability. I just found that over time it got a bit more flimsy. I think if you were using stiffer foam, the balaclava method would work a lot better. You can build on the balaclava method. It is just a way of making the head slimmer, I suppose. However, most of the time nowadays, people just use the bucket head method if you're going to be building it by hand, because usually if you're building it by hand and not using a casted base, you're going to be lining it by hand anyway, and you can't really get that clean lining as easily with a balaclava method. There's no difference really, especially if you're making your first, it doesn't matter too much, but do whatever works for you, for real, do whatever works for you. If it works, it works. But personally, that's why I think that we've seen a reduction in balaclava method suits lately, because most people custom pattern their suits lining now. Alright, so this one we have, Mandang7349 asks, "Do you think it's possible to add embroidery to fursuit to add detail in the arms and legs? The fur would be short and the embroidery would be like custom patches, honest opinion." Yes, I think that's perfectly possible, especially with detailed things like tattoos. You might get custom embroidery patches for that. The only other thing I've seen embroidered oftentimes, or like, okay, depends on your definition of embroidery. If you're thinking like the kind of embroidery you're thinking for like patches like you'd get for your bag and stuff, like the zigzag, really tight stitched, like images made of thread basically. Besides tattoos, the only other place I've seen it done is a butthole. It's not safe for work. It's not safe for work. It's safe for work. It was for a schnauzer suit, and they had an embroidered butthole, and it was the drama of the week when that happened. I'm too old for this at this point. I'm too old. But if you're talking about a different kind of embroidery, thinking like top stitching embroidery, so you're getting bits of fabric and you're top stitching it in, and you're maybe doing a satin stitch around the edges. People do that all the time for things like belly nips, especially like whisker spots on the cheeks. You are right though in that the fur should be short. That is 100% correct, because if it's long, it's going to get covered up. So you're on the right track, and I think it can work. It's not my style personally. I prefer to do really detailed fur sewing work if it was up to me. For things that are so detailed there's no way, either airbrushing or embroidery is the way to go. So both Jinx Bones and Direwolf Gaming 56 have asked about how I feel about Bigsy Fabrics Gorilla. So I do believe, I gotta check this now, because I'm fairly certain that Gorilla is their Mongolian, right? Gorilla. Let's see. My Google sucks now. Yeah, so it doesn't look like they have Mongolian. Yeah, so I think I've ordered Gorilla once, and it's like Mongolian. So back when Shannon was doing all of the fur supplying, so that's where we get the name Luxury Shag from, is from the original manufacturer Shannon Fabrics. They also made a fabric called Mongolian, which was longer, and the strands, I always used to describe it as an oily look. They're longer and they'd stick together, and it wouldn't shave very nicely. The backing wasn't solid, you couldn't shave it. It was just too long and too thinly wefted into the backing. As I've shown in my furs video, you look at the backing when you're determining the quality of your fur and how it's going to shave and its diversity of uses. You can use furs that don't have a solid backing for things like details, so like, cheek fluffs, hair, inside of ears, stuff like that, that's fine. But if you're buying this fur thinking you're going to be able to shave it, you're dreaming. It's not going to happen. And Gorilla is basically Mongolian. You can use it if you want. I think I've used Gorilla for things like crotch hair, armpit hair, a goatee, anywhere I want something to look particularly scrungly. You need to just be aware that longer furs are not going to be as thick most of the time. Seshidao asks, would you be able to do a video on how to package and ship fursuits? Would love to know how one goes about this, especially in Australia. If shipping international could be a bit daunting for a new time maker. Actually, yes. So there is a extra credit class on my Patreon right now that talks about shipping, and I walk you through how I package up a suit. So if you're keen on seeing that, go check out my Patreon where it'll be available right now. As well as there should be another extra credit class for this one, which will be me going through my favorite fursuit tutorial. The fursuit tutorials that I've used over the years, what I think of them, how the tutorial landscape has changed. So if you're keen on seeing that as well, Patreon, link down below. Rax is bored asks, I have a question and need answers from experienced fursuit maker. What types of foam should you avoid? I have some low density upholstery foam that's a bit worn out and hasn't been used. Could I use that, or should I just buy new foam? Well, provided it's not used foam, you should be okay to use it, provided you don't care about the suit getting a bit softer over the years. I have used low density foam before, and I just find that as time goes on, the foam gets softer, it gets squishier. So your suit will be out of shape for longer if it's squished up in a suitcase, for example. It doesn't have as much bounce, it's not as resilient. But if you want your suit to last, get new, ideally mid to high density foam. And foams to avoid, don't use memory foam, don't use used foam. Avoid low density if you can. Don't use insulation foam, the pink stuff, unless you're making like a different kind of cosplay headpiece. Think like quad suits are really good with that stuff, but don't use it for normal fursuits, please. It is insulation foam, it's probably not good for you, etc, etc. Okay, so Tater Tot Pie asks, I love your videos so much. They are so in-depth and comprehensive. Thank you. I'm curious if you've ever tried a 3D printed head. Are they more breathable? Do they fur well, or do you need to use EVA foam to pad the base? And does it need a sort of mesh over the holes to avoid pits in the fur? Thank you so much for your treasure the furry community. Know you. Look, I have used 3D printed bases, not personally, like I've done repairs and maintenance and refurbs on them. Again, hot take perhaps, but me personally, I don't like them. That's just, again, it doesn't mean they're bad. It's not to say they're bad. I don't think that they're bad. I just don't like using them myself as me and as what I want from my suits and what I want to give. My reasoning for why I don't like them is, for one thing, PLA, which is what most 3D printed bases are made of, warps like at 50 degrees, which if you leave that suit in a hot car and something is on top of that suit, for example, say you put it in a bag and you squish the suitcase, you might dent it. It's gonna melt, it's gonna warp and get soft, and it's gonna go into the head. They're not necessarily more breathable or less breathable than any other heads, I'd argue. The holes often do get covered by foam, for example, if people are changing the shape, so it doesn't really add much breathability. Yeah, it's easier to install fans, but then that's batteries and wires you have to worry about, makes it harder to clean. The nylon, or like TPU, the flexible material fursuit heads that have a much higher heat tolerance, those are cool. I'm interested to see where those go. I'd be interested to see how one of those looks third. With the holes, people don't usually put some stuff over, at least from what I've seen of the 3D printed heads that I've worked on. You just need to make sure that your fur is fitting really, really well. It's the same with that and any solid, like stiff bases, because you're not gonna have any wriggle room. It has to be exact. It has to be nice and clean and bang on the money. And you know, the usual things that come with moving jaws and the finickiness of them. I'd much rather 3D print a foam cast so I can pour expanding foam into the mix, which I do use. Just for me personally, 3D printed heads aren't my go. Not to say they're bad, just my opinion. Opinions, 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 not fact. Opinions, YouTube opinions, it's my opinion. Next we have Rufus Howell, who asks, what do you use to cut and mold below the base? As I said in the video that you commented on, I use scissors and my electric bread knife to carve my foam, but mostly my scissors. Not much else to that, I guess. A tiger named Jerry asked, is it possible for me to use minky for the face of my fursuit instead of shaving down fake fur? Yes, but you better ensure that that base that you're using is either cast foam or baby butt smooth, because minky is a lot thinner and it's very slippery. It's a very slippery fabric, and you are gonna need to make sure that that is glued on pristine precision. No glue lumps, no nothing, in a way that's because look, if there's any imperfections underneath that minky, you are gonna see it. You could, yes, but is it harder than just shaving? Yes, absolutely. Just doing the short areas on your face with minky is harder than learning how to shave well. Absolutely. There's so much more fine, specific precision work that goes into furring with minky, in my opinion, that it's so much easier just to learn how to get a nice shave. I've seen people do it, and when it looks good, I'm like, witchcraft right here. How did you do that? It's amazing when I see it and it looks really good, but it's really difficult to achieve, and that's why it's not commonly used. If it was easy and it was easy to get a clean look with it, everybody would be doing it. So yes, in theory, but best of luck, because I wouldn't. I don't think I could be that accurate with it, even with my 10 years of experience. I couldn't do it, sorry. And lastly, we have Chicken Nugget Paw, who asks, how do you stay motivated throughout the process? I started making mine in, I think, September or October of last year, but I'm only now starting to fur it. Not because I'm slow, because I keep taking huge breaks in between steps, and I cannot for the life of me seem to stay motivated to get working on it again. Yeah, look, as someone who does it as a career, I get it. I get it. It's hard, man. A lot of it is repetitive, and a lot of it is scary too. My best advice for motivation is see what other people are up to. Find people who have your experience or watch some tutorials, keep engaged with the content and see what people are making and get inspired to keep going. Besides motivation is a very complex thing. It can be to do with neurodivergency, it could be to do with burnout, it can be to do with overall happiness and mental health. Motivation isn't simple, it's complicated, and just take it easy on yourself. Just be kind to yourself and take care of yourself before worrying about that. Because the more you take care of yourself, the better your motivation is going to be. Because if you feel good about yourself, you're going to be able to work. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're going to struggle. That's the long and the short of it, at least from what I've seen. But yes, I hope you guys really enjoyed today's little Q&A. I've got to think of what to do for a finale video. I think it's going to involve VR chat, and we're going to talk to some experienced makers about what their worst mistake they ever made was. And we can react to it, and we can discuss it together. Hopefully I can get that to happen, but we'll see how we go. And I believe that is it for today. I will see you guys next time. Bye now. Human hand.